Hey guys, this is El. It's Sunday the 14th. I'm back at the shop. I've got the Brooklands up on ramps so I can get underneath it. And I bought myself a new fuel filter because I'm a little bit concerned that the fuel pressure is a little bit low. So this filter is a Henks filter. It's the part number is H84WK01, and this thing is supposed to interchange with the Bosch filter that's on the car. I did check the part numbers and the interchange numbers. This costs about $11 on Rock Auto, so it's pretty reasonably priced. You'll need to relocate the fittings because there's fittings on either side of the actual fuel filter. But it does come with crush washers, so that's great. So I'm going to get underneath there, I'm going to replace the fuel filter, see if that changes anything with the fuel pressure, because now I'm beginning to think that the fuel pressure is low, and if the fuel pressure is low, then the computer could try to compensate, and it could cause a run-rich condition by opening up the duration on the injectors. That's my theory anyway. Aside from that, what else am I going to do? Well, aside from this, I'm going to try to clean out the idle control valve, because that could be another point of failure, and it did actually throw code on the master check for the idle control valve. So that's something that I'm going to take apart and see if I can get it cleaned up. Maybe it'll make a difference. Maybe it won't. Who knows? But I'm going to try the fuel filter first, because I think that may have a quicker result. Aside from that, I'm going to try to do some work on the 107, so I'll save that for another video when I get started on that guy. But I bought some calipers for it, and so I want to replace the rear calipers and then bleed the brakes out. And I also want to show you what I bought. So I was able to score this. It's a rotary pad lift, which basically means it's a scissor lift. It lifts it up on these pads. It's a used one. Obviously, it cost me $700. It's a 10,000 pound lift, so it's a pretty decent size lift. You can probably pick up anything, including my Super Duty. Comes with a 110 volt power pack. Has a little bit of surface rust, but that's fine. I can touch that up. This was it belonged. The guy who sold it to me, he works for a company that basically outfits the big stores, the tire stores, and every couple of years they have to get rid of the old ones and put brand new ones in. So there's nothing actually wrong with this lift. It works just fine, or as he told me, and he works on it and he services them. But it's just part of the contract. They have to do that. So yeah. So at the end of the day, when I get done with everything else, I'll start pulling this down and finding a place to put it. It's nice to have. It's always good to have another lift. I actually told him that if another one comes up, to give me a call, because I have a pagoda project that I want to work on. And when it's too hot to work in this building, I'm thinking about bringing the two cars that I keep in the garage into this building, and then bringing the pagoda home, and then that way I can work on it in the evenings. I think that thing probably needs about 400 hours worth of work, but you spend 4 hours a day, over a summer, hopefully you'll get most of it done. So I'll do a video on that sometime soon. But anyway, that's basically it. Alright, so the fuel filter's out. This is the replacement. You can see basically they've got the same effective thread, but you got to pay attention to the arrows, right? Because they kind of look like the inverse of each other. So this one's going to basically slide in. This one had to slide out that way because that's where the lip was, and this one's going to have to slide in through the front. But the arrows are the most important thing, because they tell you where to place your things. So this is going to go in, this is going to go in the trash. So Still not sure exactly what the problem is. Car seems to run a little bit better with the new fuel filter. I also cleaned the idle control valve, which may or may not have helped. Before it seemed like it was stuck, so I used some lubricant and some brake clean to basically free it up, and when I shake it, I could hear it rattle, so it was opening and closing. But the O2 sensor, when I read the scan tool, still flips over to 1.27 volts. The fuel pressure is reading 35, 40 psi, unless you shut the engine off, and then it goes up to 60 psi, which I'm guessing is because the fuel's boiling in the rail and it's pushing the pressure up. Don't really trust my gauge that much, so I may go out and buy another fuel pressure gauge just to be sure. And then I may just get another fuel pump as well, because obviously there's a problem with this one, and there is a fuel pump, this OTP 2024 or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's the one that is sold by the Rolls-Royce dealerships as the aftermarket one. The Bosch original one you can't buy, but I can try that one and see what happens. I don't know. But right now, maybe the problem is low fuel pressure, which is causing the injectors to open up more than they should, and as a result, you've got the rich running condition. It's running right now, and it seems like it's running okay. I also want to pull the plugs out and re-gap them, because I put the plugs in. There were new plugs, but I didn't gap them. And maybe I need to check the gap and make sure it's okay. Hey guys, I'm back at the shop. So I have a theory that I think maybe the problem is related to the fuel pressure regulator. And the reason I say that is because I'm getting around 40, 45 psi, maybe even 50 psi. I just put a new fuel pressure gauge on the car. It's one of those fixed mounted gauges. I won't keep it on there for long because I don't really trust the fitting. It's kind of I'm using Teflon tape instead of the flare fitting. But the long and short basically is I'm getting a fairly consistent pressure, but when I rev the car up, it's a little bit kind of unsteady. And what I think may be going on is that the fuel pressure regulator is bad, and as a result it's getting unmetered fuel into the intake because it's leaking through the vacuum line into the intake manifold, and then you've got this basically metered fuel that's coming in through the injectors plus this unmetered fuel, and that's why the car is always kind of running rough. It's not getting a standard cylinder misfire, it's getting a random misfire, and it's running rich even though the system is trying to basically back off the fuel trim. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take the big intake pipe, the big runner pipe that goes through the center of the V off, and I'm going to try to test the fuel pressure regulator just by simply basically putting a vacuum to it and seeing if I can draw some fuel out. I just ran it very briefly so I can pressurize the fuel system, so it should be possible to do this test without too much effort. But that's where I am. I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm just going to get cracking on it. So I'll give you an update as soon as I get everything apart, and then we can take a look and see what's going on. All right, thank you. Guys. So I had this thing off, and I was able to see the fuel pressure regulator. So what I did is I took a vacuum pump. That's the vacuum line that goes from the fuel pressure regulator to the intake manifold, right? And my theory was that the fuel pressure regulator may have been leaking because the membrane ruptured, and that could be basically the reason why it's running super rich. It turned out there's nothing wrong with the fuel pressure regulator. It seems to be functioning fine. What I did is I took that vacuum pump over here and I plugged it into this deal, which is at the fuel pressure regulator, and I pumped it up and it held vacuum, didn't have a problem. I've got this little fuel pressure gauge over here, and as you can see, It's holding pressure right around 55 psi, which seems fine. The car seems to run okay. You can see that the vacuum line is disconnected right now. So I'm going to watch it real carefully and let the thing warm up. It doesn't seem like, I think with the vacuum line disconnected, it might actually be running better. Doesn't seem like it's running as rich. What I can do, I can put my finger over that vacuum line. Still has a bit of a miss. I don't know, maybe it has another vacuum leak somewhere. But so far, you know, with the vacuum leak, obviously it's sucking in more air, which makes it run less rich, I guess. If you can smell this, it still smells pretty freaking rich. So I don't know. I think I'm done right now. Any suggestions that you guys can offer will be gratefully appreciated. So that's it, I'm done.